Show with Paul Daner, Mark Salafo. Kick off the weekend, all right. It's the Growler Friday show. It's Who Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Who Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr. of The Athletic. Mark Salafo. The Mark Salafo fans are out here now. They're following you everywhere. They're following us now everywhere you go. It's good to know that they're out there.
Yeah, so far so good. It is nice to see them in different cities. Last week it was St. Louis, having a few of those out there, and it was fun. It changed the entire show. We turned into a football podcast mid-show, which we'll get into a little bit more in depth later. But they waited to an appropriate time in the show to break out the chaos, so I appreciated that. It's good to see our fans in person.
Yeah, they're out there. They're out there they're everywhere is what you'll find. Even Turks and Caicos, the Mideast, hopefully hanging in there out there. So there's a lot that we're everywhere, which you're now discovering. But look, it's Friday. It is going to be a big weekend. It's our last weekend before the draft. We've got all our big draft coverage coming up next week. I mean, it's exciting times. Most of the truly nauseating portion of the draft coverage is now behind us, and that makes me very happy.
Really, I kind of feel like your last few days would be hard from my perspective, because it seems like you've done the mock drafts. You had the big wide receiver show with Jay, which was great, the trenches show, and now it's like, what are we going to do for the last week here? Just more mock drafts? Like, you're going to get a lot of the same narratives that people are pushing. And how many mock drafts can you do, Paul?
Well, the answer is usually somewhere in the 50s. If you do them year round, you can go 52. You could do one every single week if you were dedicated. Some are the most there was one year that I got to check in with Skinny, our guy, Richard Skinner. He was in the 20s. He had done 20 some mock drafts one year, and it was truly legendary stuff that he was dedicated to. The most I saw 14.0 yesterday, and that's when you start to wonder what exactly is going on. But yeah, I'll have one more next week up on the site, as long as one last big board, and we will have our mega mock draft show early next week, which I'm super excited. James Rapine, Jeff Hobson, myself, Jay, where we go through and have the realistic group of players, and we pick ourselves, snake down the line. It's a great exercise to have out those conversations about the real group of what it's kind of leading into be from different perspectives. Jeff comes from the team perspective. James comes from the Locked On his side. They have a lot of different conversations as they go through things. Jay and I have different sides at Pro Football Network and The Athletic. And so it's a good chance to bring all those voices together, and maybe more special guests. Still lining that up officially, but that'll be on Monday afternoon. You'll see that hit drop, if you will, which I'm excited about that.
At least that's a more measured response to the mock draft exercise, where you get people that are like, here's a realistic take. Because we've hit the point of mock draft season where every fan mock draft has like a T. Higgins trade in it, or some sort of like absurdity that's thrown in there, like a Johnny Newton still being available at pick 49, stuff that's just not going to play out. And that's kind of, it's every time you see one of those, you're like, all right, well, that's not happening. Byron Murphy's not falling to the second round. I don't know how you got that figured out in your mock draft simulator, whatever you used. But yeah, he might not be there at 18. He's definitely not going to be there at 49. So to have some actual expertise involved, that'll make it a more realistic mock draft experience before we get into the real thing.
Yeah. And so we've got, make sure you're following us, of course, the Growler podcast on Instagram, the Growler on YouTube, or maybe you're watching us on YouTube right now. You got to see, Mark, your face kind of froze at the beginning in a really awkward pose for like a good 20 seconds. It was fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. Then that initial impression was really good. So for our YouTubers out there, they're going to enjoy it.
It's hard to hold a pose for that long, but the fact that I did it is just commitment. It was I
thought you were going to open with a whole ventriloquist bit today. I was like, wow, this is impressive, actually, like to hold just like that. And you've really thrown your voice excellent. I was impressed. I didn't think that was going to be the kind of comedian that you were going to turn into. I didn't know that was going to be your next direction, but you can't define where the art takes you.
Exactly. You just got to roll with the punches. And if that's what this show demands of me, I'm going to meet the call and I'll do a little ventriloquism. Maybe I'll turn into a mime. That's the next big thing for a podcast is I'm just going to act out all of my responses, which you'll have to interpret. And it'll just sound like a one-man Paul Dehner show if you're listening on audio.
Really looking forward to that. I am really looking forward, though. We have something new this week. I'm pumped. We're going to be doing this for a while. I am so excited. We're going to have Eric Sztanyo is going to be our guest. He is a local real estate agent, team leader, really, Team Sztanyo, the Sztanyo Clanyo. Is going to join us. He's not just with Keller Williams. He's not just part of that group. He's one of us. Okay. This is longtime Bengals. He's emailed many times. I've butchered his names many times on this podcast.
I can't believe that.
As an emailer and sending songs and growler bets, and he wanted to have a segment where he's got Bengals. He's got your questions. He's got Bengals questions, and we just might have some questions for him as well. But so that's going to be this week. We're going to get to that here in a little bit. I'm really excited about that. Great to have him on board with us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
How many times do we say this is your show? This is a show for the fans. We take all these questions every week, whether they're weird, whether they're on topic, and we get into it. So our advertisers, let's more the same, more of you that we can include in the show. That's what we want from this.
Yeah, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great to have Eric. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, here's the thing. We've got a lot of questions. The draft's almost here. We're trying to – we see you. Those of you – people want to be seen these days. That's really important. So I want our listeners to know. I mean, they're not – you have shallow fans. I don't know what we're calling ours, the Growlies. What are we – I don't know what we're –
Oh, yeah, we got to work
on it. We got to work on
Rallies is
that.
a little, we can do better.
Yeah, but we that's a working title. But you are seen. You guys are sending so many questions. We're pushing a lot of non-draft, a lot of it off into. We got a lot of time to fill this summer. Okay, we're pushing a lot of those online. We're trying to keep them draft heavy right now, and so we're gonna do. I think we should do some kind of rapid fire deal today to get us through a bunch of these draft questions.
We've gotten so many. And thank you for everybody that does send in the questions, the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. A lot of nice feedback about the shows and about Dey Light. So keep all that stuff coming. Keep sharing the show, like Paul said, subscribing to the YouTube, doing all that stuff. But yeah, we've gotten some tremendous questions. So let's just jump into it. Let's see how many of these we can get through.
I'm going to see if I can't keep myself. I'm going to try to self-edit here. To under a minute. I don't know that it's going to go well.
We need like a countdown clock.
I know. We used to put Mo on the clock see if he could do the perfect take in 40 seconds, and he would always hit the post. That would not be my strength.
He spent decades working on that, though. He's perfected that.
I'm not, but I'm going to do my best to try to keep it under a minute. So we'll see if I fail or succeed.
I just did shows in St. Charles, so I got to meet this listener in person. Lonnie from St. Charles is kicking off our questions this week. Going back to the Dax Hill well, if Dax moves to corner, how much does that even solidify that position? And where would corner be on your list of Bengals needs heading into the draft?
All right. So, this is going to be the last trip into the Dax Hill well, because Lord knows we've done it many times. But this is kind of a follow-up to the conversation we had before. I'm already off to a bad start prefacing for too long.
Yeah, you can't take 15 seconds of preamble.
Right. I mean, this is the problem here. This is why this is not a setup that I'm good with. So to me, I think that it does solidify it because you love Dax Hill as your back, your just in case, or your guy who's competing with DJ Turner, your backup to Mike Hilton, whatever we're inventing over there at corner, if that's where this goes. And there probably would be another pick in there. That's, to me, he either rises up and he takes to it and he's great and you have a great second option, or maybe he beats somebody out, or you've got depth with a first round pick who's got versatility. You're going to need those people at some point anyway. Anybody that you're bringing in at this point to be corner 4, essentially, is going to be somebody with problems. And so for me, somebody who's got tons of skill, been in the system, versatility, give me that. I think that very much does solidify the back end of of your room a little bit, and it's better than anything else that's out there as far as I'm concerned, if you're talking veterans or draft picks.
Well, that would be nice, because one of my big fears is taking one of those corners in the first round. Those are elite guys still. The question becomes, though, Dax played primarily as a slot in college, right? And then he made the switch, and that was a little bit up and down last season, which is why they had to bring in some new safeties. So you still feel strong enough with Dax as that extra corner that maybe you just draft one in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, something like that for depth? Where in the draft need does corner fall at this point? Then
I think it's the variable. I think wherever it falls to you and it hits you right. If it falls to him in one, it's not off the board totally to go with if one of the top corners falls to them. Like if Quinion Mitchell from Toledo's there, I mean, you're considering it. And so if you go into round 2, round 3, it could be not at all. It could be one. Like, I just think it's a variable where they don't have to have it. And Dax is a variable, and they're going to let those two variables come together and figure out what they've got going forward after that. I think that's what it ends up being. But again, I'm going to say it one more time. It still has a feeling like there's just something up the sleeve with the Dax Hill thing. Just because of the general vagueness that we've gotten about this plan the entire time. There's no reason for that. And it's just spidey sense stuff from me that just feels like something, a conversation is happening under the table a little bit there.
That's a bold take from the guy that started the trade Dax Hill talk that really fired people up for, a month ago.
I know. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this again. I have to speak my mind. I am here on this show to speak my mind. That's why it's created. And that's just a spidey sense that I have, okay, about this whole situation. It's just weird. It just sits weird for me. Usually I feel like I have a good understanding of exactly how everything's going, and this one, dots don't connect. That's all I'm saying. It's all I'm saying. All right.
Next question is
terrible start. That was like a 5-minute set, on the first question. We're never going to make it through these. I got to be better.
See, that's the thing. You're wrong about this, because you need to set the bar very low. And then with each subsequent question, you just try and get better and better. There's nowhere to go but up from here.
Always set the bar low and jump over it. You're right. All right.
From Kevin, if you worked in the front office, which former Bengal to have never reached a Pro Bowl would you most want to add to the current roster right before the 2024 draft? Theoretically, this guy's going to be near their prime, but also playing on a rookie deal. Kevin threw out 3 choices for you, so you could run past boot this, I guess. Marvin Jones, Domata Peko, or Dre Kirkpatrick?
Oh, this is a hard one. To me, it's between Marvin Jones and Domata Peko. And again, I'm going to get selfish here a little bit, because all 3 of these guys are A+ people to me, like that. I mean, some of my favorite people. So I don't know who sent this. Kevin must have heard me talk many times about my affection for all 3 of these humans. So they'd all be wins for me. I have a hard time saying no to Marvin Jones. I think he's individually the best player of this group, especially top of his game. Marvin Jones, like he's a real dude. But I mean, we talked about I don't want to bring this up again. We talked about butts a lot. There's been no bigger run-stopping butt in Bengals history than Domata Peko. Like, he would be such a fun fit on this team. The hair, the belly dance, the attitude. Love everything about Domata Peko. He's your run stopper. Give me that. I'm going with that. Even though I won't say that I like Marvin Jones for the most overall talent, and Dre Kirkpatrick is one of my favorite people. But I don't think he's as good of a fit here. I'm going Domata. Man. Just saw Domata at the combine. It was so good seeing him. He was out there. It might not be long. They'll have Domata's kids here. His kids are top recruits. They're all like the top of the list for getting all these offers for college. So congrats to Domata, and those kids that were like little running around the practice fields back in the day are now going to be on college football fields. I feel really old. Some of you guys are getting old. Okay. Yeah,
that's crazy. That always makes you feel old when it's like kids of players that you covered or that you watched as a fan and enjoyed. Now they're going to be in the league or on a big college team. I'm going to cut you off there too, because I don't want you to get into any more butt breakdowns about college football players or anything like that.
It's a problem.
But you're right. I do feel like Pecco on this defense would fill a major hole. Good guy. It would be fun to watch. I'm still right there with your top two. I think I'd rather have Marvin Jones on this team on a rookie deal. You know, having such a good receiver, it would be fun to see how they use him with Higgins and Chase, and maybe getting Chase inside a little bit more. That would be fun. It would be another tool for Joe Burrow, and they could just outscore everybody, which they might have to do in some games. Next question's from Justin. Do NFL teams utilize draft guides like the Beast in any way, maybe for just validation? Or do they not want any outside noise to disrupt their point of view and draft approach?
Yeah, it's funny. Like sometimes you'll see this. There'll be a picture or video from a draft room, and you'll see, maybe even a copy of something, with the Beast being one or whatever, just laying there. Or they will talk about it or reference it. They want information. Like they spend their entire years seeking out information. I actually did an interview with Trent Brown, who's a senior personnel exec with the Bengals yesterday, and that'll be up on the YouTube here next week. But he talks about how, it's a constant year-round grind at getting every piece of information and opinion that you can on all of this. So to then throw your nose up at 400 some pages of nothing but information would be insane. They would know. They absolutely know it. They absolutely look at it. It can validate things. It can open up those. Oh, is there something we missed on this guy? I think they use that, and they also use it for public perception. That's important to understand league perception, public perception of certain players, because you're trying to figure out where they're going to go despite what you have. And so all that information is very useful. And what Dane does specifically, is kind of a lot of what they already try to do. But, one more run through on all these guys and all that background isn't going to hurt.
All right. That was pretty good. That was like a minute and a half. So you're getting better at these.
We're working our way down.
For this one's from Brian. Is the new kickoff rule the best thing to happen to inside linebackers in a long time? Pass-happy offenses have made coverage ability the number one need for the modern linebacker, but the kickoff, which is going to happen 6 to 10 times per game, is essentially a running play that will require ability to shed blocks and pursue. Do the Bengals have enough at that position, or do they need to add somebody in this draft?
Well, you're right. This is great for linebackers, and I think the teams will consider keeping an extra linebacker up on game day because of this. I mean, look, these guys are special teamers anyway. Your last 3, 4, 5, 6 guys on your active game day roster are decisions mostly based on special teams and what Darren Simmons is thinking. So the idea now that this needs to be a lot more linebacker types is good for them. You need more on your team. You need more up. So yeah, I think that's great. I think, they just re-signed Joe Bacci. Marcus Bailey is still out there. And so I think he is one that you probably will bring back. I would expect there to be another late round pick. One of those, they've got 4 picks in the 6th and 7th round. 1 or 2 of those are going to be special teams focused linebackers that are going to battle for roster spots. The next Marcus Bailey, so to speak. And so, yeah, I think that they're going to go that way late and focus on as a special teams perspective, because I think that's so much of what it's going to be. What it's going to be is for that position now is the back of that room is going to be very special teams heavy. It already was, but this just kind of accentuates that.
I mean, when you have 10 draft picks too, of course you got to take a flyer or two to beef up the new special teams rule.
No doubt.
This one's from Kyle. I'll preface my question with this. I've been a listener long enough to know that the Bengals never like trading up and giving away draft picks. Is there any scenario where Duke and company get aggressive, trade up from 18 to maybe 14 or 15, possibly because of a huge run on the offensive line and defensive line prospects? In this hypothetical, the quarterbacks and wide receivers are falling. It feels like this team still needs a difference maker at tackle, and giving up the new 3rd round compensatory pick and maybe a 6th could get us the difference maker we need in the trenches.
All right, this is good. So it's all about setting my average, I think, at 1 minute a piece for answering these rapid fire questions. No, there is no scenario. They're not trading up. They don't trade up. They're not going to give up picks. They're not going to do it. I hate to be so definitive. It would be the first time they've ever done it. 1995 was the last time they traded up in the first round for Kajana Carter. I don't want to have to go down that road again. This is not something they have interest in doing. There's a lot of guys that they feel like are going to be available or falling to them. We saw them do it a couple of years back with Cam Taylor-Britt, but that was barely giving up anything for 3 spots at the end of the second round. That's the only time in the first or second round Duke Tobin has ever traded up. It's just not something they're going to have interest in doing. And now I say this, and then they'll be like, "Hey, new Bengals, Joe Burrow Bengals, breaking all molds." Right? It's one of the last molds that they haven't really broken yet. And the way Duke Tobin treasures those picks and the needs that they have and plan on filling in this draft, I just don't see any scenario that they're going up. It would be the most shocking thing that could happen.
Especially with just how much talent is there in that first round for positions that they need. It would be one thing if it was a cornerback heavy draft or other positions, but like there's going to be plenty of guys there that are intriguing at 18. And no matter what doomsday scenario you envision here, and I don't see any world in which, there aren't going to be at least 3 quarterbacks that are gone pretty early.
Yeah, they trade back then. I mean, if they don't like if the guys are coming off, then they try to move back and add more in the middle. I mean, that's to me, that's an ideal scenario that they could do is if they feel like guys are coming off their board, they don't answer the phone, they pick up the phone and call, and they're trying to move back or hoping someone wants to come up more than they ever want to come up because they don't want to move up. They don't want to give up picks. That's not going to be something they have any interest in. They never have.
All right, so maybe this one will help your average too, because this is a little bit shorter one. In Fantasyland, which not going to happen player would you rather have? That Bengals fans have talked about this offseason. Justin Jefferson or Bowers?
That's not a real question, is it?
That's a real question. Which fantasy player would you rather have?
You're asking me.
Both unlikely.
In Fantasyland, where I can pick a player, and I have 2 guys standing in front of me to add to my team, I can either choose arguably the best wide receiver in football or a tight end who was good at Georgia. These are my 2 things in front of me. These are my choices.
Yeah, but you also, it is very difficult. Joe Burrow's former teammate
Joe Burrow's former teammate and Chase's good friend. All of these things. Or, hey, if you watched how bad first-round tight ends have worked out everywhere, you could try that again. Yeah, I'll probably take Justin Jefferson in Fantasyland, I think. I think that's probably the move. That helped.
All right. You got that one under a minute. So that was your big win for this little chunk. This next question, I don't see you getting under a minute because this is a great one from Ray. Any respectable Cincinnatian knows about the Reds deal with La Rosa's where fans can win pizza every time they get 11 strikeouts. NBA teams have similar promos, which came to light recently when a Rockets player intentionally missed a second consecutive free throw in order to give the opposing crowd free chicken sandwiches. So he wants to know what we would choose as the required scenario and prize for Bengals home games. Imagine the noise level if fans were thanked with the cheese coney for forcing a false start on 3rd down. Love the question. Yeah. What is your prize and scenario here for the home Bengals fans?
Boy, do I love this. This is so good. So brief backstory, which is a great way to keep yourself under a minute, by the way. Brief backstory. So back when I worked for the Reds, I worked in their scoreboard and we did a lot of stuff like that. And they were always trying to come up with new stuff. And some of us, we would go on, they would go on trips. We went on a trip, went to Tampa, and we saw the 11 strikeouts thing. They did it in Tampa Bay. And we were like, the place went bananas as it does with the Reds. Now we were like, man, we have to let them know. And I'm not taking credit for that. I believe they probably already knew, but we were like, we came back from that trip and told everybody like, look, this thing is unbelievable. You've got to find out a way to do it. And then that's what started originally strikeouts for scoops and slices. And then it became just slices. The ice cream people were like, too much. We're giving away too much. But it is amazing. I've always loved it.
I'm going to stop you right there and just say, in the lore of Dey Light, you've just come out and say that the whole 11 strikeouts piece, it's your idea. You started it.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible that you were the one behind that. So I'm really interested to see what your Bengals take is on that.
I mean, I'm not, if that's what you like to say, that's not true. But I will say my Bengals take on this is I think it has to be a certain number of false starts forced. So 3, 2, maybe a second one. Because once you get the first one, it's like then people start getting jazzed up. And it could be on any down, you see, because you don't want to like have it not just be certain on third down. Third down's already kind of wild anyway. So I could say maybe second or third down. Or you could just say second down. I don't know what you're doing, or maybe it's just all false starts. But I think there's got to be a false start counter up on the wall, okay, that someone moves the sign down like you do with the strikeouts, and you try to get it up to 2 or 3. And we could throw timeouts in there. So if you do false starts or a timeout as the play clock is going down 3 times in a game, it's free coney for everybody at your local Skyline, since they're the Bengals sponsor. I would assume.
Is that enough? Is that enough of a prize? 1 coney
is one little. Have you ever seen the small size of those pizzas that they do for the strikeout slices? I mean, you don't. Have you seen people for free T-shirts? Have you seen what people do for like $3 T-shirts?
Grown men knocking
people
over
went
children.
nuts. They were shooting salami out of cannons at the New Heights thing, and people were losing their minds. Like it doesn't matter what you're giving away. It's we won something free makes people lose it. So I'm saying 3 false starts or timeouts as the play clock goes down on any down, but or focus it to second or third or fourth or what. I don't care what you do, but second down sponsored by, I don't care, but that would work. It would build as the game went on. You get closer. Love it.
That's what I like. There needs to be a number element to this, because when I first looked at this too, here's my take on it. I would go red zone turnovers. It's an area the Bengals defense historically has been good at. Those are game-changing plays. So anytime the opposing team gets in the red zone, that's going to guarantee a little bit more energy. You're going to get even louder fans knowing that they could score a free coney with an interception. Maybe you throw like a missed field goal in that, maybe like 0 points in the red zone, something like that. And they get a coney for each one. So now you can walk away with like 4 or 5 conies on this if you're loud enough. I feel like that might be the ticket.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Or what about holding an opponent under a certain point number for the game? That way, as it gets later and the defense is having a good game, the juices kick up even more. You're getting it on every play. The crowd is getting into it. If they're at 13 and let's say it's 35-13 Bengals, and the other team is driving in garbage time, that crowd is going to be whipped into a frenzy trying to get that stop. Or even if it's 14-13 Bengals, they won't care about the win. How many times you've been to one of these Reds games and like the 9th inning, there's 2 outs or 1 out, and all of a sudden they just rise and it's crazy. Not because the game could end, because they're going for the 11th K for the pizza. I just think however you want to involve it, you could even do both. You could have 2 separates. We're just we are just content providers for the Bengals at this point. But I like this. I think we've got some good ideas, but you got to do something that the crowd feels like they can have some kind of an effect over a little bit. I think because a red zone stop, just a turnover, just kind of happens for them. But if it's about
so could a timeout too.
Yeah, the timeout too. That's huge. So
but I think you're right, because like there are, like, I'm a Xavier basketball fan. I've gone to games before. It is fun. Like when you get to that, I think it's like 10 threes or something, and that gets them free Chick-fil-A at Xavier games. So like there were big blowouts where a walk-on would come in, and every time he would try and heave a 3 in the last 2 minutes, the place was going bananas. And when that kid hits the shot, normally there's a little bit of walk-on buzz, but you hear 10,000 people just losing it for this kid, and that's fun. But fans can't really affect the 3-pointer either way. Maybe like a missed free throw thing or something would be better for basketball. So false starts, timeouts, if they want to use red zone turnover, I just think what's important for the Bengals to take away, you talked about how they try and gather any piece of draft information they can get. So they're probably listening to this show just to hear your latest mock draft takes to integrate into their plans in the coming days here. So maybe the Bengals front office can use this too. It would be a huge miss, maybe one of the biggest talking points of this season, if they fail to do anything with it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This is more important than any draft pick they're going to make is taking this and running with it and figuring out what's next. So you're welcome. You're welcome, Bengals. All right, let's do it. It's time for our big news segment. We are going to make this happen, and that is going to be the debut of our team Sztanyo, Eric Sztanyo, joining us to bring the Bengals questions. And what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
What's up, Paul? Thanks for having me, man. It is it's an honor to be here. Been a fan for a long time. As everyone knows, I think, and I'm your sweet spot demographic, you know, when it comes to like the Seinfeld references, the Survivor references, you know, Rocky IV. By the way, all-time line by Jay this week. Was that the Russian one?
Was that the Russian one? Wow. Unbelievable. Like, honestly, like, I don't even know that I can continue to do a podcast with him after that.
That was an all-timer. So yeah, super happy to be here and do this. Should I get right into the question?
No. Well, first of all, I want to make sure, Mark, it should be known that we got lots of people that have reached out to us about doing stuff, and we vet them. Okay, we're not just letting anybody in.
It's one of those things too that we've had people come to us. We did test episodes several months ago, and those started to circulate in the entertainment industry. We had people reach out to us. Diddy's people reached out to us, and then Paul and I looked into him, and we said, "There's something not right here. The vibes aren't good for what we do. Can't quite put a finger on it." 2 months later, the guy gets raided by the feds. So I think it's important to see, like, you're the first guest that we're bringing into this from that partnership standpoint. We do our homework. We're not just letting anybody through these doors and onto this stream. Yeah, Diddy's people wanted it. They couldn't get it. But the Sztanyo people, they came through, and that's why you're here, because you are one of us.
The Sztanyo Clanyo, right? Isn't that the name of your group?
That's the Sztanyo Clanyo. That's everyone. That's right. And who's followers of the YouTube channel and clients. And it's not like you guys are doing promos for Kings Island or local barbecue joints, just, you know, vetting people to get in. So, you know, the bar was really high. You know, it was like an obstacle course to get in. But no, I'm super happy to be here. Seriously, like whether the Bengals are good or bad, Paul, your content's been amazing for years. Everyone who listens to this knows that you're the best who does it. And it's always super insightful. It's always hilarious. And it's just, it's been a staple. My hardest times as a Bengals fan over the past several years is when Paul's making a career transition. He's gone for like a couple of weeks or a month or two. I'm like, where's Paul? I need my Dana Jr. fix. And I know a lot of listeners out there can relate. So good stuff. It's good to be here.
That's very nice, and that will get you everywhere. I appreciate you saying that. But honestly, I was a little unsure about bringing you on, to tell you the truth, for one reason. You're more competition than anything for us. Your YouTube channel is getting way too many views to make me comfortable as we try to grow ours. Like, I'm seeing, like, you've got all these subscribers. There's like, how many people have seen you have a thing on moving to Cincinnati with like 270,000 views. You're doing all these live streams with all these views. Like, what is going on? I don't like, if you don't have a chance, Team Sztanyo, SZTANYO, over on YouTube. You have this thing cranking. You've got people working for you over there to give people all the information on what to do if you're looking for neighborhoods, looking to move to Cincinnati, what's going on with the economy, what's going on with all this stuff that people have questions for. Just follow you just to keep them up to date. It's way too popular. Okay. You're taking some shine from us and what we're trying to build.
Well, hopefully, you know, it can be a collaboration, right? And the channel the whole idea is to bring great real estate content, answer questions. There's a lot of people looking, you know, post-COVID, there's a lot of people looking to move around the country. They can take their jobs with them. And they're looking at Midwest cities like Cincinnati. As you've mentioned many times, Joe Burrow kind of is the tide that raises all ships. And so I'm here to help people move here and find a place here in town and, help them with that. Our tagline is find your home, strengthen your family. So we're here to do that. And maybe, make a few more Bengals fans in the process, which obviously come over to you guys, to the channel.
Man,
I'm listening.
You know what? Is there nothing Joe Burrow hasn't helped in this city? I mean, he even helps the local real estate market.
I'm
it's
all
unbelievable.
Love that
It's
guy.
unbelievable.
I like
Well,
that you're
you
welcome
were going to
to
show
the-
up with a Bengals question here every week for us because you have been, you know, a absolute diehard day oneer here. And so you've always fired off many great questions that we've used, and I've mispronounced your name many times on here.
It's a hard name. It's a hard name. Mark,
I don't know why I would ever. I think a lot of times I put the Z at the end for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why I would do that.
Well, in elementary, like going throughout public school, growing up in Boone County public school system, Northern Kentucky, it's, you know, first day of class every year. It's just like the teacher's going down the attendance roll, and then there's a pause, and I'm like, I'm here.
I'm here.
Like Sztanyo, Stanyo, like anything you can imagine. But it's Stanyo. We're branding it here, right? The Stanyo Clanyo. My friends called me Stanyo the Manyo in high school.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of things you could
I drive 2 Honda Odysseys. We call them the Stanyo Vanyos. So I'm just trying to help people out here because it is spelled weird.
Not 1 but 2 Honda Odysseys, people. Keep that in
Sure.
mind. All right, Bengals question. Bengals question. What do you got for us?
Okay. Yes. I'm sure you have draft questions. Can't get enough of them this time of year. But my question's more on kind of the inner workings. We're almost there. It's actually draft day. And I'm curious about how the decision-making process works as the Bengals are creating their board, their big board. And when it comes to draft day itself, like what percent of that decision-making is the coaches? What percent of that decision-making is Duke and the personnel staff? And what percent is ownership? Like who gets the biggest piece of the pie there when it comes to making their board? And follow-up question, is that all settled going into the day? Or can like Frank Pollock, like if it's Murphy and Mims, right? Can Frank Pollock like, you know, pound the table and on draft day be like, we need Mims? You know, how does that all work?
That doesn't happen. The one thing that doesn't happen. By the way, I when I talked to Trent Brown yesterday, I ask every personnel person I ever talk to in an interview if they've ever seen anyone actually stand on the table. I want to find the one guy that did it and this became a thing that people stand on the table for people, because there's no way it ever actually happened. The people are too big, the tables are too flimsy. I don't believe it. But so that doesn't happen. Like the last second thing, the board is set. There's not going to be screaming and yelling on draft day. They have screamed and yelled this week. That's when all that has happened. That's when people walk out of the room and mutter to themselves. But because that's the final call, those rankings are final. Now you can get a little bit of that later in the draft where you're talking through 5 guys in round 5. It's that they didn't hash out already. They were just grouped. You get more of that than you do in early on. Round 1, round 2, that board 1 through 49 lock. So they might move around and then that creates discussion, but nothing like what you're referring to. This is Duke's call. This is Duke's show. He puts it together. He runs it. He hears everyone's voice. At the end of the day, you know, and they're very collaborative and open about that, more so than any team in the league, the way they use their coaches. This is Duke's decision, and he is the one that runs it. Now, he works for Mike, so we know what that means too. There are times where him and Mike have to talk things out. And Mike eventually could put his hand down on a pick or 2 or have somebody that he really believes in or wants. They have to listen to that. That's his call. Mike doesn't make as many decisions as you would think in that regard. He loves the draft. His voice matters a lot, but it's not, it's not something where he's out here pushing buttons, pulling people off boards, moving people up every second. He makes he lands his opinion, whatever, but he mostly cedes to Duke and to everybody else there, and what they want to do for the most part.
Is that more around with those calls? Is that more around the character kind of questions, like a Sweat?
Yeah, I think there's controversial figures, important things that they're thinking about. I mean, you know, and sometimes he just has certain things that certain players that he really likes or wants or thinks are a great fit, but it's collaborative with him in a lot of ways too. I mean, you've got to convince him. I mean, he can choose at any point to pick whoever he wants. He just doesn't, as far as I know, he doesn't do that all the time. He's usually happy to see it along with the way and give the coaching staff and Duke and his personnel staff what they want and let them kind of run the show. So that's kind of and again, I'm not in there. They keep that very secretive, but what we've gathered, what you can kind of gather over, I think you get a feel for how that kind of works.
So it's not a case of him just picking a player because of who he wants to drive around in a cart during the offseason.
No, I mean, I'm here for more cart circling. I'm here for it. Like, I want more. The more cart circling, the better. But that's a whole other thing. I wish he would circle. That's how every draft pick should get driven from the airport to the stadium, dropped off on the practice field, and Mike just drives him around in a circle and talks to him a few times.
We should do a live show during
on
camp
the cart.
On the cart.
It's a great
the Growler
idea.
on the cart. Eric, that's a great question. But we have a real estate question for you, right? We're going to tap into your expertise with this one.
All right.
The spring season, there's a lot of movement in home buying and selling. That's got to be a busy time for you. We appreciate you taking your time to come on to our show. So what is the current state of the real estate market? Is it more a buyer's market, seller's market? How are things looking this spring?
Yes. Great question. Thank you for asking. It is still a seller's. I'm going to keep this under a minute, Paul, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I hope it goes better than I did.
We'll see. Maybe that means 3 minutes in my language. So it's still a seller's market. Has been for years. What that means, so a normal market is when there's 6 months of inventory, meaning if no new houses hit the market, everything would sell in 6 months. The last 4 years since COVID, we've been down close to a month of inventory. And that's where we're at right now, which means sellers can call the shots. It's a little bit like Duke Tobin circa 2023. And hey, sellers are kind of like, we have our T Higgins, go find your T Higgins. That's kind of like what's going on in the real estate market right now is sellers kind of wield all the power. So, in fact, an article came out this week on Zillow that said Cincinnati is once again one of the fastest selling home markets in the nation, right up there at the top. So if you see a house online, oh, that looks really cute, it's gone in 2 days. That's a very common experience right now. So that's the state of the market. If you're selling a house, it's great news for you. If you're buying a house, it can be a challenge. And so you need to be prepared, have a strategy. And I would recommend you work with a good real estate agent who can help you win on a home offer.
Well, maybe you know one now. I mean, we're not going to name names, but maybe you now feel like you know one. You could join the Sztanyo clan, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Team Sztanyo, SZTANYO. Go over there. Go Instagram at ESZTANYO, Sztanyo. And if you're looking to buy or sell a home, you can always email them directly, info@teamsztanyo.com, or go to their website, I bet you can guess what it is, teamsztanyo.com. Connect with them.
We didn't have to fight for the domain on that one too hard.
No.
There wasn't a whole lot of competition.
Eric, this is great. Thank you so much. Looking forward to talking to you next week, and we'll dive back in. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Sztanyo.
There we go. That's the plan, so many things, so many great things. Great to have Eric as a partner with us. And he comes with, he's one of us. He comes with real Bengals creds, real Bengals podcast creds.
And that's what we want. We want our partners to be part of the Growler family. That's, it lifts up all of us. Your questions drive this show. So many nice comments from people and people sharing it and spreading it around. So when we're looking for partners to be part of this, it helps when they're already listeners. They're already fans of the show. They're fans of yours over the years. Those are the businesses that we want to prop up and help. Since you're on the puns, we do have another pun topic to get into.
Yeah.
Not a Sztanyo Sztanyo, but the Brown nicknames. We got a few nicknames sent to us for the new right tackle, left tackle combo for the Bengals. Did you have any that you were going to throw into the mix? Or you settled on Brown County?
I'm not settled on Brown. I like this as homework for people to keep sending in if they've got ideas and we can spawn something here. I like Brown County. I'm not against it. Do you have one?
I was thinking of a couple, and having the partner that we did that was just on here makes me think houses. And both those guys are about the size of houses. So I'm thinking brownstones could be a good one. Maybe a little bit better.
Stones.
Yeah, maybe a little bit better if this was like a New York team. But
Yeah.
Both those guys have been on the East Coast, so brownstones could be fun. Like you've got one on each side. The second thing that I was thinking was I'm a big pro wrestling guy growing up. One of the things that I love that the WWE would always do is make up familial connections. And so I'm going the Brown Brothers on this. Sounds just like a classic tag team, the Brown Brothers. It's like an Undertaker Kane thing where it's like, hey, we've got another big guy. Let's just say he's the Undertaker's brother that he, tried to disfigure as a child or whatever that was.
I see one here from Charlie that I really like. That's
the problem.
Submitted.
So, we're not above this.
The
Bouncers. I love it.
That's good. That's good. I
love
like
it.
The Bouncers. That's not bad at all either. I think we've got a lot of potential. I think we're working on some good stuff. If you are listening to this and you have names that you want to submit, again, we're just giving at this point. I mean, we're just giving content. We're giving ideas to the team. It's nice to see how giving that we are here. And so, if you want to have some submissions, send it to the Growler podcast at gmail.com. And we'll keep, if you've got a better one than that, keep going down the line and let us know what you got. I would say old school wrestling's always a good way to go, but I like that Bouncers. Brownstones and Bouncers are pretty good.
And the thing is, we're humble podcasters. We're not out here to say that we're know-it-alls and that whatever we say, it dictates the path forward. Brown County was a great starting point. And this isn't a vote either. This is not like, hey, we're determining it today in April what this nickname is. It's an ongoing thing. It's an evolving thing, much like a pro wrestling championship. Whoever's going to come for the champ, take the belt. Maybe it started with Brown County. There was a pay-per-view. Brownstones won the title. They won the strap. WrestleMania, Bouncers comes in, and I think is probably the current champ. I like the Bouncers. We can haggle on how to spell it, but I think right now in the clubhouse, the leader is Bouncers. So see if you can beat it. The Growler podcast at gmail.com, and we'll keep an eye on this throughout the offseason.
Like it. Good call on that one. All right. Let's keep it rocking and rolling as things tend to. We're slowly weirding up here. So we'll see what happens next. What do we got?
All right, our next question is from Jackson. Mike Brown was spotted in the bubble on Tuesday sporting a Bengals starter jacket. Can we get confirmation from Paul if this was a homage starter re-release or an OG from 1993? Did you see Mike Brown as the fashion icon that the direction this show would be going in?
Yeah, I knew this was coming. No, I will say this. This is almost I'm not saying a bad question, as misplaced as Jefferson Bowers. You don't think that's Mike's real jacket from back in the day? This man isn't getting rid of old school Bengals merchandise. Have you seen the Paul Brown groundbreaking hat that he wears all the time? Like, that is kind of like his thing. He's not going. You think he walks into Homage and buys retro? They come to him and ask if they could look through his closet. All right. Mike's got the real. And I love that this has happened probably multiple times for him, that like the generations have circled back where stuff that he wears all the time goes in style. It comes out of style. It comes back. Something else goes in. Those brown trench coats will be back before too long, I'm sure. So I feel like that's Mike's real stuff. Okay. And I'm all honest. Honestly, I have a ton of jealousy about that. My wife has one of those Cincinnati Reds satin jackets that says Cincinnati on it that Homage has started selling. And it's a little bitter around our house because she's had that forever. She wears it to opening day or playoff games. One of them has been more often than the other over the course of the years, and gets the opening day pin. So there's history of all of that. You can see it's basically passed down in her family. And she's been the only one that's had one all the time. Like, for years and years. And now everybody's walking with one, and they're taking it for their Instagram feeds and all this other stuff. I'm like, no, you're stealing. This is like supposed to be the thing that she had. And now Homage is just putting it out here and everyone has it. So Mike, I hope Mike doesn't feel the same way when people start wearing that jacket around. Like, look, that's supposed to be my thing. And now it's back.
What's crazy to me is, like, if you were a Bengals fan in the 90s, everyone had a very strong opinion about Mike Brown. And the fact that he's gotten to have like this renaissance where he's like the old grandpa figure driving around the $250 million quarterback in the cart, and people like him again. Now what, he's like a fashion icon. We've got to start watching Mike Brown's outfits to see, what kind of retro piece he's going to trot out that everyone loves. I mean, the guy
can possible segment. That could be a good segment for us.
Yeah.
What's Brown's Fashion Week?
And gosh, you know what? You talk about needing things to talk about in the offseason. That's a good training camp storyline to follow. Yeah. What is Mike Brown wearing this week?
Yeah,
just not a path that I saw for him at any point. I'm glad that it's happening. I'm glad that he's been here for the resurgence of the franchise, going to the Super Bowl, becoming relevant again. And now he gets to become the fashionista of the team. Him and Joe Burrow are the two outfits you're watching for every week.
Burrow and Mike Brown next to each other, split screens of the two of them and what they decided to wear, which one was weirder, which one was more on point. We can go through all of it. I love this concept. That's good season segments there. Good season segments. Do you have are you going to ambush me this week?
So we do have an ambush question. This is from this comes from inside the Growler family. And I like about this is, I'll say two things. First, I like anytime somebody's close to the inner circle of Paul hitting us with something, a little bit of a twist this week. This question comes from Jay Morrison. This is a question for me. So he asked, how long into the show does it take for my arm to fall asleep? And do I have any resentment for Paul for not ordering me a fancy mic stand? Podcast labor practices. That's what we're getting into here on the Growler. And it's a great question. It's one that needs to be addressed. Do I have any lingering resentment for not having the fancy mic stand? No. I feel like I was given the basic starter kit for podcasting. It's like when you start a video game, here's your weapons and your tools, and you have to earn XP along the way where you can cash them in for better tools, better gear, that sort of thing. So I feel like that's what we're doing here. I've got the basics. I've still got the plug-in headphones rocking. I've got the basic mic. But once I hit that certain point, then I'll get the nice mic stand. And, years down the line when this is huge and it's the biggest podcast around, the biggest football podcast, that's when I get upgraded again. You'll get me the studio that Mo has. I'll just have a huge room set up then, some TV, some of that stuff. So it just keeps me humble, keeps me working, keeps me focused on the future. And that's what I appreciate from this.
Yeah, that's what it was all about. Keeping you humble. That's what it's all about.
It's a little bit more casual aesthetic too. Just me holding the microphone.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean anything to people that mostly listen to this. But if you are a YouTube viewer, that can sometimes rub people the wrong way. But it's a little bit more casual feel here for Dey Light. It's a Friday.
I figure, look, you're used to comedian on stage, holding the mic is your thing, or you're not a stand guy, right? You don't leave it in the stand. You're a walk and hold guy.
I'm always been a walk and hold guy. You got to build up that strength in that mic hand, especially when you're doing 3 shows in a night. So, that's another plus to it. It's like having a standing desk in an office. You're still working some of those muscles, right? You're still getting a little bit of exercise. So, I'm fine being humbled with my podcast.
This is your comfort zone. Love it. All right. So the call came from inside the house this week. I appreciate that. Good to have it.
Do you want to comment? Because we did.
Yeah, let's go into let's go back and let's go into the comments and see how that turned out this week. I look forward to this.
All right, so this was, I think, on one of your mock drafts or
oh no.
So this is from Roger. I don't understand your pick of Sztanyo. Didn't you detail how poor the Bengals' history has been at making first-round selections that require the player to switch positions, especially offensive line? Why do it again? Given DJ Reader leaving, there's a massive hole at DT, not much depth. If not, take an offensive lineman that is a natural right tackle and not somebody that has to switch positions.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about him is the versatility is his selling point, is that that's why you love him, is that he can easily do that. Is it a projection? I don't know that it's that big of a projection to go from left to right side. I mean, Jonah Williams had no problem doing it. I think the whole point of people talking about his versatility is the fact that nobody there thinks that will be any problem for him. Those that knew him at Washington see his athletic skill set, like it translates everywhere. And the versatility to maybe move inside, and you have time to work that out. and I'm not saying like I have a story up today. Byron Murphy guy, arm up. Like I make the case. He's the guy for me. Like he's the top of my board. And from a Bengals perspective, I'm not necessarily against that. And I would probably think the safer pick is somebody like Fuaga, who's played right tackle and those types of things. But, you know, he's regarded as the best pass protecting of all these tackles. Nate Tice talked about that last week. That stood out to me as best pass protector, incredible athlete. Y'all have been begging the Bengals to draft the best athlete offensive lineman and stop doing fat guys for a while here now. And so that's part of this too, is to also go a different way. So they're all different pluses and minuses. And I just think, I don't think that it's as big of a projection for a guy who's played left tackle, left guard, could play center, to say, can you go play on the right side? I don't think that's that big of a projection.
And I do think that's something. I understand the wariness of Bengals fans when it comes to a position change. You know, Dax Hill played a lot of slot corner. They moved him to a free safety. I understand, you know, that didn't work out great. Jackson Carman was a left tackle. They moved him inside. I understand some apprehension with that. But you're right. The versatility there is still one of his selling points versus it being just a pure projection about what they think he could be. So yeah, that I feel like it is still a solid plus for him. If you take him in that position, there's also the case of like, all right, you've got Trent Brown. Maybe he can kick inside and compete for that guard position. You still want to get your 5 best guys on there. And if you have a guy that has that versatility and could challenge on the inside, why not? You know, maybe
Love
in the
the
future,
idea
he's
for
a
year
right tackle,
one.
but yeah.
You know, you have Trent Brown and Orlando Brown on the outside. And if anything happens to anyone, you could have a first round pick that could slip right in and be ready to go. I don't know what's not to like there. And you get them in the building and you figure out what happens next, but you just take the talent and then figure out where to play him or how he slots in. So that's, and you know, we'll see how it all plays out. There's, like I said, pluses and minuses. All right. Any more? Do you have any more things out of the comments that you want to touch on?
Nothing else in the comments for this week, but I do want to tease because we're coming to you a little bit earlier next week. But we do have a lot of people that had a problem with your urinal stance last week. You went very anti-urinal, and the pro-urinal people came for you. They came in the comments. They came in the emails. You know, we have a realtor partner now. I guess we could ask Eric next week if there's any sort of, you know, market considerations if you add the urinal to your house.
Yeah.
We're looking for help. We're looking for somebody to be on your side because you're getting pummeled out there for your
I know.
urinal.
I need somebody. Tell me somebody else thinks that people with urinals in their house are serial killers. Somebody's got to believe this as well.
Yeah, you're getting the urinal cake treatment right now from our emailers. So we're going to get into that a little bit more next in our next show.
That'll be on Wednesday. We'll have a Dey Light next week because that's basically the start of the draft weekend. Wednesday is next week's Friday because it's draft, and so you're gonna get the Monday mega mock with everybody. You're gonna get our Dey Light leading into draft weekend to get your last shot at draft questions, and then walkouts Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night with Jay and I, and then of course we'll have our show with Mike Potts that we always do. More information coming on that very soon, so keep it locked next week as we let you know everything we've got going on.
It's a big week. We've got real Christmas Eve vibes. You know, you can see what Santa Duke is going to pull out for us Bengals fans and get us excited for the next season. I know. So I was in St. Charles, Missouri this past weekend at the Funny Bone, and we had some Growler fans there, and they wanted to talk draft after the show, which let me set this stage for you too. Get your opinion on this. St. Louis, obviously, a little bit of confusion for football fans there. They lost their team. So where does their allegiance go? What I love about our Growler fans that showed up to this show. So there's like 75 people in this room, all of them in Bengals gear, right? Sitting front row. And I got it about like 35 minutes into the show. It was going great. We only had to kick out one lady who was drunk and yelling about Blue's Clues for some reason. It was just deep in her soul. Once she started singing the mail time song, we're like, okay, this lady's got to go. She got kicked out by security. But
I used to use that song a lot when I would do mailbags. I would put the YouTube clip of the mail song in there, and I had to stop doing that. It just felt weird. There's controversy. I don't want to get into Blue's Clues controversy and give you PTSD.
Yeah, that'll really bring me back. We had fun though. We had fun when she got kicked out. When I got to my little plugs at the end, at the part of my set towards the end where I'm selling the merch, I'm talking about plugging my specials, that sort of thing for people to follow. I mentioned that I do a football podcast, and then the Who Dey chants break out among our Growler fans, leaving everybody in St. Louis very confused, right? Because I hadn't yet mentioned it was a Bengals podcast. So just the mere mention of that and a lot of Who Dey chants, you got a lot of people looking over, trying to see what the commotion was. When we got into it, we did. So it turned into like a mini football podcast for like the next 5 minutes of the show. Because we had a Browns fan sitting opposite of our Bengals crew. So he took some exception to that. And then we had a Bills fan from the back that wanted to chime in with his take. So we had a lot of fun between those three groups. And I guess this is a question that I have for you. So the Browns fan, I asked him why he chose the Browns after the Rams left. He said that he didn't want to be accused of being a bandwagon fan. So he said he was going to pick whoever the worst team was that next season and become a fan. So that's how he ended up with the Browns. That's got to be the worst way to do it, right? Like that is just, you already have the heartbreak of losing a franchise. And so you're going to just gravitate towards another market that A, stinks and has also been through losing a team before. So that's on the table again. Is there a worse way to pick a new favorite team?
There's no when I did this with soccer and I ended up picking Everton, which has turned into a very sad situation. I did it because I wanted a team that I knew would be in the Premier League. I didn't want it to deal with. There was a guy who used to watch Aston Villa when they were down and would watch it in League One or whatever, the championship. When they went down, he would be in the corner of the bar on his laptop trying to watch a grainy stream. And I was like, I just never want to be like that. So give me the team that has never been down, but I don't want a front runner. And that's how I ended up with Everton, because they'd never been relegated in their Premier League history, but they weren't one of the big six. So they were young and up and coming. That decision has totally backfired on me. I don't recommend that. So this is up there with that though. Like I get that you don't want to be a bandwagon person, but just pick a team that you like. They're like that have fun players, and then let that be what it is. Like, because it's all going to cycle anyway, unless you're picking Patrick Mahomes, which I doubt St. Louis guy is doing.
So the other guy there, the Bills fan, same thing. Rams gone, had to pick a new team. He waited. He became a Bills fan after that playoff game in 22 where they lost narrowly to the Chiefs. So it was very dramatic.
Seconds.
Definition of a bandwagon fan there, just taking kind of a good, exciting team. He said he didn't pick the Chiefs because he didn't want the best team, but picked the Bills. So that's, has some bandwagon vibes to it. But here's what he did. He did the table leap. So I feel like, it's sort of like a gang, blood in type situation. He jumped through the table at a tailgate like the Bills Mafia does. Is that enough street cred to earn him just normal Bills fan status at that point?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like getting baptized, right? I mean, it's basically baptism. I mean, that's what you do. It's not a holy water. It's just through a table, preferably on fire.
Yeah, and I think that more fan bases should have something like that. If you're going to jump on board, you go through a table. I don't know what the Bengals would be. Maybe you got a shotgun, a can of chili just to get on board as a Bengals fan. I will say the Bills guy, we were in the meet and greet line continuing our football show, all of us, after everybody else had left. And the girlfriend of the Bills fan, because he broke this out. He's like, I've got the video. Do you guys want to see the video? And she was just like, oh, not the video again. You could tell that she's been forced to watch this video many times and was visibly repulsed at the idea of the boyfriend pulling out the video of him going through the table again.
If you are listening and have ideas of what a Bengals bandwagon baptism should be, send them to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com, and we will trot those babies out next week too. Whatever your ideas are, we're giving you homework. I think homework should be our new segment, actually. I think we should have a regular homework section where we offer up your guys' answers and decide who had the best one to whatever the homework, whoever got the A+ from the previous week. But I think, what should the Bengals bandwagon fan baptism be if they want to come on board?
I like it. We'll still take your Brown nicknames. If you have suggestions for the prize thing, sure, you can throw those out. We'll pass them along to the team. But the Bengals baptism, that's important because this franchise is on the up and up. They're going to be a contender this year. It's not fair if you haven't been here through the hard years to just jump in during the Joe Burrow years. So what's the price you got to pay to not feel the tinge and the accusations of being a bandwagon fan? Those are the ideas that we need from you. And if you want to have a post-comedy football podcast in person, you can come out to a show. I'll be at the Dayton Funny Bone with our guy Josh Sneed tonight, April 19th, and tomorrow, April 20th. And then I'll be at the Thoroughbred Theater in Kentucky on April 26th. It's in Midway, Kentucky, just outside of Lexington. That's a big one. So come out to that if you're anywhere in the Kentucky listening area. And then later this summer, I'm going to be in Columbus, Ohio, Des Moines, Iowa, Evansville, Asheville, and Charleston, South Carolina. So get all those dates and more on my socials, and come on out to a show.
All the Bengals fans in all those towns are going to start showing up. It's going to turn into football podcasts all over again. So you're going to get more and more of this. So you gotta beef up on your football material, I guess. Although we're doing a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, there's a place that can get that. What I'm going to have to worry about is beefing up on the security if some of these football podcasts take a turn. The Bills guy and the Browns guy were nice, but you're not going to get that in every city for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up. Dad life. I have one this week, and it involves a moment where you just realize this is what it's become, and that involved the 28-minute Bluey episode. For people that don't know about Bluey, it's become basically maybe the most popular cartoon amongst kids globally. The Australian dogs, the healers, and they put out a special. First of all, anytime that they're putting out new episodes, it is big news in my house for a week. There's a countdown, like every day is like, oh, new Blueys in 3 days, right? Almost as big as the Taylor Swift drop, almost. But it's similar levels. But it came out on, I guess it was Saturday morning or whatever, or whenever it was, and all the kids went down. I stayed in bed. They watch it, and my wife watched. They watched through it like 2 or 3 times. And my wife's like, I can't cry about it anymore. They're talking about it. I haven't seen it yet. And I'm like, and they're kind of ruining it for me. And I'm like, all right, I guess I need to go see it. Except they were blaring, of course, Taylor Swift throughout our whole house. And so there's no quiet place to go. So I end up putting my AirPods in on my bed, on my phone, watching the 28-minute Bluey. Yeah, tearing up, crying. It's an incredible episode. And I'm just sitting there at the 12-minute mark. My wife walks in and sees me sitting there and is like, just dies laughing. I'm like, I know. This is what it is now. It's me curled up in a corner, focusing on trying to watch a 28-minute cartoon so that I can be part of the conversation in my house. It's really a real mirror looker, really looking at myself saying, this is it. This is what it is now. This is your life.
But you're not alone in this either. So I'm on the flip side. I haven't seen the episode yet. I have been avoiding it like COVID. I've just heard so many people talking about this. My wife's parents, they saw it. They cried. My kids, they're like, oh, our classmates saw it and they cried. And, this person cried. And so I've been avoiding it like Neo in the Matrix. I'm just dodging it as much as I can. Because Bluey is... And if you're not a parent, it can be tricky, but there's still a lot of non-parents that are aware of Bluey culturally. But it is so tricky to avoid it for too long. But that is the world we live in. Bluey has more emotional, gut-wrenching season finales than Game of Thrones had. It's crazy that it can evoke so much.
I think the dad in Bluey is the best kids show dad that there's ever been, because dads are always in cartoons are always the same bumbling idiots, right? But this is like an engaged, fun, goofy dad who cares, who just wants to play with his kids and be there. And like there's a bumbling nature kind of, but they don't lean into that. They lean into the fun, engaged version of wanting to play with his kids. And like it's just nice to see that from a dad's perspective, instead of they're like doop da doop da doop, I don't know what's going on in my own house. And so for that reason, I'm a Bluey fan, and I appreciate it for that.
But he sets the bar too high, Bandit. Like it's not fair, because he's not working. You don't see Bandit that's just like doing a podcast and can't be with his kids, like it's just the guy just plays all day, every day, and like maybe has one episode a season where he can't because he's working. The rest of us have jobs that we have to do and have to, still be there for our kids. But yeah, not every day can be a whimsical adventure. for every half hour. But yeah, he's among the best of all the cartoon dads. Maybe up there with Goofy from a Goofy movie, which is another underrated dad classic. And I can just say this as an authority, as a writer for the dad on Instagram and Facebook. Anytime you throw anything Bluey related in there, it's going to do big traffic. It's going to do big numbers because Bluey is a cultural phenomenon at this point. I'm just trying to avoid this show, this episode for as long as I can. And we'll see how long I can make it.
Well, I think your dad, your takes on him will change after this because his job is a central figure in this episode, and so finally it comes to light, and they serious him up, and that's where it comes from. So that's good stuff. All right, we've done it. We did another one. Look at us. Every week we keep doing it. It's more fun. We're adding stuff. I mean, we're really evolving, and I'm excited about it. Wednesday. We're on Wednesday next week. So since that's going to kick off draft weekend, so get your questions in, get your answers about the Brown people we can talk to your Brownstones, Brownsters. Do you think you can beat Trent and Orlando Brown's nickname? We can talk about what else did we have? We had the what are they going to do for free conies thing? We have all what was the last one we did?
Urinals. They need to
urinals.
If anybody's on your side of the urinal debate, because right now you are not looking good.
Not looking good. So any of those, send it to the Growler podcast at gmail.com with your suggestions, your homework, and we'll go through those on Wednesday. We'll have Eric Sztanyo back, add you to the clanyo there. We'll have plenty more stuff with him as we dive, and maybe he's going to help us with this urinal thing. He's going to help us. I can feel it. He's going to let us know what we need to know about that. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening. This has been a fun one. Draft week next week, folks. We are absolutely almost there. Looking forward to it. So we will talk to you on Wednesday. Have a good one.